and welcome to Tome of Uselessness. This is a shorter episode.
Probably.
Yeah. I say that now, and in 3 hours, I will be proved a liar. But basically, Dan and I have both watched different shows, and we kind of want to tell each other about them.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
No, you go first. You wanted to do this, talk about She-Ra.
Yes, I would like to tell you about Netflix She-Ra. Did you ever watch the 1985 She-Ra?
Probably like here and there, because I recall watching He-Man, and it probably it was probably He-Man and She-Ra, but of course probably not a lot of She-Ra.
He-Man, I gotta go back and then I'll bring it back to the new series, but He-Man was a show made to sell toys.
Sure.
Like, they made the toys, and then they were really cheap. They actually used I believe it was wrestler toys that they
just
kind
replace
of
the heads.
They reskinned, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the plot in He-Man was revolved around making new toys and selling those toys.
Sure. Famously Transformers.
Yeah, or Transformers. And which was the case for a lot of 80s shows, right?
Yeah.
And then they wanted to make a version for girls. So they made She-Ra. And in that universe, He-Man and She-Ra are brother-sister. The character design of She-Ra characters, they kind of look like a cross between little dominatrixes and hair models.
Yeah, or I was about to say a figure skater, because her outfit is very figure skater-esque.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I am not super familiar with the older She-Ra cartoon, but it did have all the dolls and the castle as toys. I think we got them at a garage sale or something.
Cool.
Because I had all the dolls and the castle, I was super reluctant to watch the remake.
Sure.
Because I thought it was... First of all, I thought, this is stupid. Why are they remaking this? It wasn't even good to begin with. And second, I had it in my head that it was the creator of Steven Universe that did it.
Yeah, I think I kind of had that impression as well.
I could just never get into Steven Universe. I tried. I know a lot of people love it, but I thought the animation looked kind of shitty.
Yeah.
And I found Steven really irritating. I found most of the characters kind of irritating. And I couldn't watch more than half a season. I couldn't get into it at all. Yeah, I was reluctant to watch it because I thought it was Steven Universe creator. And at the start of the pandemic, I downloaded TikTok, right? And I've been watching a lot of cosplayers TikTok, and She-Ra cosplays keep coming up, and it just made me really curious about what the show is about.
Sure.
So I finally decided to watch it, and then I figured out that it wasn't the creator of Steven Universe. It was Noelle Stevenson that was the creator of She-Ra, and she is the author or artist of the Lumberjane series of graphic novels, which I love. Mm-hmm. Oh crap, what's it called? I always forget. Nimona, which is another graphic novel that I love. So
I haven't heard of that second one.
What's that?
I said I haven't heard of the second one, but I've definitely heard of the Lumberjanes, of course.
Nimona is about a shapeshifter who decides to become the sidekick of an evil scientist.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a cool world because it's half fantasy, half science fiction.
Nice.
And the evil scientist isn't actually evil. He just he doesn't really want to hurt anybody, but he kind of wants to disrupt the good guys' plans, and he has an interesting relationship with the knight that works for the good guys.
Right.
And Nimona just wants to fuck shit up. So I would recommend it. It's a very good read.
Cool.
I can loan it to you. I have it.
Nice.
So I started watching it, and I was immediately hooked. And let me tell you why without spoiling it too much.
Sure.
First of all, it is very good storytelling.
Which, that's not shocking.
Yeah, it's excellent storytelling. If you watch, there's only 5 seasons. It's obvious that they had the end in mind when they started it.
And all 5 are done now?
Yep, they're all done. You can watch them all on Netflix.
Nice.
So there's no weird like retconning. There's no like it all makes sense.
Right.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is that they've redesigned all of the characters.
Yeah, I've seen a few pictures of like the cast or whatever, and they all look like slick, well animated.
Yeah, it's very well animated. There's like the backgrounds are like so cool. But with the character designs, they've made them more realistic, like not like photorealistic, but like there's all different body types. There's like they're not all white. Yeah, they just made it more realistic, more inclusive, more representative of real life.
Yeah.
The other thing I liked is that they've redesigned all their costumes so that they kind of make more sense.
Yeah.
And they're not sexy, which I appreciate because like a lot of adults like the show, but it's still a kids show, and it's kind of cool to make a show for girls where they're not all like huge breasted, tiny waist, characters, right?
Yeah. And
they wear clothing that makes sense to their characters. Their outfits kind of change over time. I don't know. I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, no.
The next thing is that like every character has a unique personality, and I know, right? And they have like depth. Like they're not just like I am the funny one. It's like I have a backstory, and I am an interesting character. And with the exception of Swiftwind, which is the unicorn Pegasus, no one is really irritating. The talking horse is irritating, but the rest of them are cool. Even the villains are not just one-dimensional characters. They're not like, hello, I am evil and I'm here to do evil. It's like they have very unique motivations, and like they grow and change and have arcs over the 5 seasons.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's very good, and like the stories are simple enough that like children could enjoy it, but they're complex enough that adults can enjoy it.
Yeah, and my question following up on what you just said there is like, is every episode its own self-contained thing, or is there like a narrative over the seasons, or is there like there's obviously, like you said, character arcs over 5 seasons, but is there a big story? Like what's the deal there?
Okay, so there is a big story.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big story over the 5 seasons, and there's like arcs over each individual season, but you could put on any episode and be able to just follow that episode.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So each episode is like a little vignette that when you put them all together, it makes sense as a bigger story.
Nice.
And
almost like it's well crafted.
It is so well crafted, and the characters, like, there's repercussions to what the characters do later on. Cool. Like in the first episode, Adora is She-Ra, right?
Okay.
She doesn't know that she is She-Ra. She is part of the Horde, the evil Horde, but the Horde. Mm. And her and her friend Katra, who have been in the Horde since they were children, neither of them know their parents. They kind of go off. They kind of goof off and go off to the woods, and that's when she refines her sword and meets the Princesses of Power. But she chooses to leave Katra and the Horde and go with these new people. And like that has repercussions for her and for Katra and for their motivation throughout the rest of the 5 seasons.
Sure.
And
Obviously.
it's interesting. It's not just like, oh, I did a thing, we're never going to mention it again.
Yeah. They're never seen again. My new adventure. It's like, well, they're going to come back. Trust me on that.
Yeah. And like it like, especially with Katra, it motivates what she does. Like this feeling of like being rejected by her best friend gives her, like, motivates action, like makes her do things that are a little bit out of character, but it's because she's kind of hurting from that she decides to do it, right?
Yeah, no, I can see it in my brain and I'm liking it.
It's so good.
Cool.
There's also a vast, like, there's not just hetero couples in this. Because there's, I guess I should explain. There's the princesses of power.
Yeah.
And some of them are attached to like special rocks.
Yeah, sorry, not to totally derail what you're about to say, but my question is the setting like space fantasy or what's the deal there?
I'm gonna go with space fantasy.
Okay.
So the princesses, like, they each have their own realm, and they used to be like a unified force, but there was a war, and they kind of went their separate ways. So the first season is kind of about all the princesses joining forces to fight the Horde.
Okay, yeah.
And some of them are attached to like these magical stones, but they each have their unique abilities and personalities. But there's 2 princesses that are older, like I guess they would be in their 20s or 30s, and they're a couple, and they're like 2 women, and it's never like, what? 2 women, a couple? What?
Yeah.
It's just like they just happen to be a couple. That it's kind of cool the way the show includes that and treats it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really good.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like you're saying that it kind of like surprised you in its high quality.
It really did. And, you know, it kind of set up, like, there's like a princess that everybody could relate to.
Right.
Like if you were watching it as a little girl, you could be like, oh man, I'm totally a Merida or a Mermaida. Sorry, couldn't remember her name. You know, and because she's like the water princess, and she's kind of sarcastic and like kind of like the goth one almost. And then there's like Glimmer, who, you know, she has trouble making friends, so she kind of gets territorial about the friends she does have.
Sure. There's
the Dan princess, which is Entrapta, who's like really into tech. She's a really cool character because she has an arc that kind of concludes in the 5th season, but for the majority of the film, she's just going along with whatever comes because her main thing is she's just interested in technology, and she's interested in learning, and she's interested in figuring out how things work.
Sure.
So she's like alone in her castle, and she's working on tech, and then she ends up a prisoner of the Horde. But it doesn't really faze her that much because she's like, you guys have different technology than us. I want to learn how to use it.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's like she's such an interest because she's not like, oh, my friends have left me and forgotten me. She's like, oh no, look at your computer. This is different from anything I've seen before, right? Like, she's a cool character.
Nice.
Yeah, that's just kind of, it's neat how there's all these different. They all are unique characters, and you can tell them apart.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like you were saying that because obviously she is a skilled writer in creating like graphic novels and stuff like that, it's like when they pitched the show and they had the idea that they were like, okay, here's our first season, and she probably had her ideas for the 5, but they were like you said, if season 1 is its own story, that they were like, if it's successful enough, she's like, I got it all ready to go, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, I think probably because the other thing is like, I think the 5 seasons were released over 2 years.
Oh.
Like, I think it started in 2018. I could be wrong, but I think it started in 2018 and it concluded in 2020.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I feel like they maybe had a deal to do the 5 seasons or something.
Sure. Or
They're
maybe,
not
they were
super
like,
long. They're like 10 to 12 episodes.
I mean, that's still pretty long for like animation.
Maybe 13 episodes.
No, I mean, because like a season of Archer is like 8 to 12, so it's like it's pretty long for animation.
But they're not like 24 episodes.
No, of course not. I mean, and obviously, yeah, like that's old school thinking. Like, yeah, like 10 episodes now, you're like, okay, that's getting up there.
And none of, sometimes you like with older cartoons, when you watch them, you're like, well, I can skip over this episode, I can skip over that episode. Every episode has a purpose in this series. Yeah.
Well, and that's like you were saying, that it's like it all connects eventually.
Yeah. And like there's moments when you like I cried in it.
Nice.
Yeah. There's some pretty like heart-wrenching moments.
Cool.
There's like one episode, not to like spoil anything, but where there's kind of like they do it in a really interesting way, but there's flashbacks to Adora and Katra growing up and kind of what life was like in the Horde, and it breaks your heart.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Is there, because I assume she's She-Ra, she's fighting stuff. What's the fight animation kind of like in there? Like, what's the action?
Oh, it's
like
very
Samurai
cool.
Jack-esque?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, everybody can fight too, right? It's not just She-Ra.
Yeah.
She-Ra takes on some of the like bigger stuff, and they do have a couple episodes where like she kind of gets full of herself and has to be put in her place.
Nice.
And there's some episodes where she loses her She-Ra ability, and then she is still competent as a fighter as Adora.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. There's some cool coordinated fighting scenes, like, and because all the princesses have different powers, it does make for like interesting fight scenes, because there's like Perfuma can control plants. So she's like, throwing vines at people and stuff, and Mermaida controls the water, and then Frosta controls ice. So like Mermaida and Frosta will work together a lot.
Yeah, so what I was saying is there's some cool like synergistic action sequences.
Yeah, and like Glimmer can teleport. So she like teleports all over the place during fights. Like they have abilities and they use them appropriately. Yeah,
appropriately and competently.
And competently, yeah.
Cool.
And Entrap, the tech princess, they don't explain it, but her hair can like hold stuff.
Sure.
Like, it's almost like another set of hands.
Yeah.
So she does interesting stuff with that too, and she's always got, I don't know, it's really good. It's really, really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's a Devon highly recommend.
I would totally highly recommend it. I don't know. I can't see people not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I wanted to mention, because I did mention before that the original She-Ra was a spin-off to sell toys to girls.
Yes.
He-Man is not mentioned at all.
Oh, yeah?
In She-Ra, because she doesn't know her past at all.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So she finds out a little bit, but you still don't hear about He-Man or anything. So she's like her own entity in this series.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think now that after the success of the She-Ra that they're like, maybe we should do He-Man?
I would watch it if Noelle Stevenson did it.
That's what I was going to say. If it was done from the same people, would you watch it?
Yeah, because I would love to see her take on it. And they do kind of end it in a way where He-Man could be a spin-off of She-Ra, like where she could find him, kind of.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting. But if it wasn't, it would be hard for it to be as good if somebody else did it, I think. Yeah,
if it wasn't done by the same people, it probably wouldn't have that same emotional and well thought out core, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Did you look up, is there talk of her doing another project in this way, or what's the deal?
Well, there's rumors that she's going to do a Lumberjane series.
Oh, okay, cool.
which I would be all over.
Sure. Yeah, they're like, what else you got? And she's like, well, I've been doing this thing forever.
Yeah. I don't know. I recommend it. I feel like you could have it on in the background while you're playing something.
No, it sounds like I got to pay attention.
I know, it's so good, Dan.
Yeah. No, maybe after I'm done this season of Archer, maybe I'll slot it in there and give it a go.
It's really good. You would love the final season because without giving too much away, it mostly takes place in space.
Nice.
And the bad guy design is very cool and something that you don't see very often.
Well, and I gotta say, just from the beginning, when you said that they were involved with the Horde, I'm like, I'm in. Anything called the Horde is either orcs or something that's terrible. That's fun.
Oh, it's so good. I hope you watch it because it's really well done.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely very interested after all the things you just said. I had no interest in watching the show. I'd heard about it and heard that it got a lot of positive buzz, and I was like, oh, cool, She-Ra, nice. But after you're telling me about it, I'm very interested now.
Tony was kind of like watching it like he'd be in when I was watching an episode.
Sure.
And he got into it enough that like he didn't want me to watch ahead without him.
Yeah, he's like, I got to go back. Just wait, pause here. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Anyways, what did you watch?
Yeah, I watched, again, I mentioned on a previous episode about the Corridor Crew talking about some stuff. And the guy mentioned this anime called Ajin. It's Ajin Demi-Human, and it's on Netflix. And because he was saying that the Old Guard had kind of the similar kind of a premise, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched the season 1, which is on Netflix, and it was pretty cool. It was kind of neat that it's like these humans that find out when they die in a violent way that they're immortal.
Oh.
I guess kind of like Highlander in that sense.
Okay.
But unlike Highlander, this has sort of an explanation because there's like these black ghosts that kind of like show up and they can talk to them. And so there's like a weird power thing going on there. It's like either a power transfer or something. Season 1, yeah, it's about this kid who he's a dick. And he wants to be a doctor and kind of like keeps his head down. And he's just like, I don't care about really anybody except for achieving my goal. And not because he wants to help people, but he's just like, I just want to be a good member of society kind of a thing.
Okay.
So it's kind of weird because normally most like anime protagonists are always like, happy-go-lucky kid or something like along those lines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like an ass. But he gets involved in a violent car accident and then finds out he's one of these immortals.
Oh.
And in Japan, so apparently like each country kind of handles them differently, but in Japan they capture them and like basically the government uses them and farms them out for like military experiments and stuff like that.
Ooh.
And there's only 2 known ones in Japan. So he becomes hunted by the government and the police and etc. And then it turns out that there's more of them. And then there's this old guy he's like known. He's been around since like the 50s or something like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's like, I want to go to war with the government, make a country of my own. Which I was like, that's pretty cool premise. And the scene that they talk about in the Corridor Crew where he's going to rescue the kid. There's some cool action where it's like, because he's running down the corridor, he's just getting shot by trank darts because like they know if they kill him, he just regenerates.
Yeah.
So they try to trank them to capture them. Even the kid, they're trying to trank him all the time. But anyway, so the guy like gets tranked a bunch of time, chops off his arm because he's like, it's got the trank in it, keeps fighting, and then eventually like shoots himself in the face. And everyone's like, what the heck? And then he's like regenerates and then just starts fighting again. And they're just like, it's pretty cool. And at the end of season 1, because it flips back and forth because basically the old guy wants to recruit the young kid because the young kid might be more powerful. They call him like a variation or a variant or something like that. Once in a while they show up.
Ooh.
So it's like, okay, this kid, and he just like wants to escape. He's just like, I just want to go live somewhere and not be bothered. So they kind of both achieve that in this season, but it gets disrupted for the kid at the end. So the adult guy's story is a little more interesting in season 1 anyway, because he's like, he calls out like a pharmaceutical company. He's like, I'm going to destroy their HQ. So everyone's, of course, beefing up security and blah, blah, blah. and then he knocks over a skyscraper beside it to crush that other building.
Oh.
Yeah, it's I was like, interesting. And he rides the build, like he goes on top of it and like rides the whole thing down.
Oh.
And then it's all televised and everything, and then he fights cops and etc. And so like a really cool action, a lot of good stuff. But the kid is an annoying, scheming jerk, and not in a cool like L or Light kind of scheming. He's just like, this kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But maybe by the end he kind of has a small turn because another immortal finds him and he's like, dude, we got to go stop him. It's like what he's doing is bad. Like he kind of has a turnaround where he's going to team up with his kid and maybe try to go fight him. And that's the end of season 1. So there is a season 2, which I haven't watched yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, but like I said, it was kind of cool. And I was like, that's an interesting premise. I assume it's based off of a manga, which maybe I'll read that because I assume that's probably bigger and more detailed.
The animation style looked interesting in the thing.
Yeah, Netflix has done some weird stuff with some of the anime where they really do it. Like they do a heavy mix of CG and drawn. Of course, it's all probably done in a computer, but you know what I mean. In that more elements are computerized than maybe should, or the computerized elements don't look as good.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like the ghosts are all CG. For the most part, yeah, they all look like, and they look at like when you look at it, you're like, ugh, it's just like it's not well as executed, but that's fine. You're like, okay, it's a weird ghost thing, right? Yeah, it was, but it was cool, kind of premise and idea, and I do plan on watching the season 2. I really did enjoy it, but like I said, the main character was starting to grate a little, but kind of has it because basically the old guy lets him get captured by the government on purpose.
Oh.
Because he's like, when he gets captured by the government, they like experiment on him and basically torture him. And he's like, that'll like make him angry. Because.
Oh, so then he'll join him.
He'll join him, yeah. Because he recruits another guy basically doing the same thing. Because, the other guy rescues him because he's been tortured and stuff like that. And he's just like, hey, we're going to fight the government. And the guy's like, yep, I'm in. That's right.
Fair.
It doesn't really work as well with the kid because the kid kind of decides that he's like, after he becomes an immortal, he's like, oh, I was a terrible person. Maybe I should try to actually like do something or help people or like, why is this happening? So he questions his life, which is good. And then when the old guy's like, so you ready to join the fight? And he's like, no, man, I'm just going to go live somewhere.
Just going to go live my life.
Basically, yeah. So anyway, it had some cool ideas. I did enjoy this season 1. It's pretty short. I think it's like 12 episodes and, they're like 20 some odd minutes a piece. So it's not too hard to just kind of burn through it. It was kind of cool. And there was some cool action stuff just because of the idea of them, unlike, like, say, Highlander, where they die and they regenerate maybe some time later, they regenerate almost instantly. So it's like they can use that as, they can use that as a tech or a tactic in their fight. Like there's a kid getting chased and he just jumps off a building. It's just like, he's like, this is going to suck. And then he lands and then, it just continues running off, right?
That's kind of cool, though. That makes for like an interesting mechanic.
Yeah. And it was kind of cool when the show was revealed more because they make a lot of points of it that there's only 2 of these guys in Japan. And then as it goes revealed, but there's actually more of them, but they've managed to hide the fact that they're one of these immortals.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then one of them actually works for the government and you're like, what?
Oh, he's hiding in plain sight.
Basically, right? So yeah, like I said, it had some cool ideas and I did enjoy it overall.
Cool. So you would recommend it?
Yes, I would. I mean, anime can be pretty hit and miss for a lot of people, but I thought this one was worth the watch.
No, everyone likes anime forever.
Well, I mean, obviously anime's back, but but you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of it, so it's like it's hard to know if something is higher quality and this and that. And some of the Netflix stuff, it's substandard, I want to say, or not substandard, but the animation, like the Ghost in the Shell, for example. I watched that. The animation was very hard to get past.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it kind of worked despite the more CG elements that I would have liked, but there was a lot of still of that anime style.
Okay. Oh, cool.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, when I watch season 2, maybe it will not be satisfying and I'll be like, nope. Don't waste your
Nope.
time.
It's out.
Yeah. Unlike the 5 seasons of She-Ra, like you were saying, I'd be like, nah, it's not even worth it. Yeah.
Just watch She-Ra. That's what everyone should do.
Sure. Or yeah, like watch the second to last episode is the one where the bad guy fights the government, and that was pretty epic.
Cool. Epic fights are good. So everyone should watch She-Ra. That's my conclusion.
Seems to be the main takeaway here. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody seems to identify with Catra. There's a lot of Catra cosplay out there.
Was the costume just very cool or easier to do?
Well, she has cat ears, so that might be part of it.
Sure.
She's like a cat person.
A little on the nose with the name, but okay.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't mention this yet, but one of the fun things about She-Ra is that you can compare the character design in the new one to the old one. If you just Google like She-Ra 1985 Catra, you're like,
right.
This is much better in the new one.
Yeah, right. I'm picturing it. It's like a leopard lady, I assume.
Yeah. There's actually like one episode where they're strategizing, and it's kind of a fun episode because each character is coming up with a different strategy, and they kind of do like a different animation style for each strategy.
Oh, that's always fun when they do that kind of thing.
And one of the characters is like doing this strategy, and it's all like kind of the old school She-Ra.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool. I don't think there's anything really more to say or that I want to say about Ajin. Just wanted to kind of just make a brief mention of it.
Cool. You can go to our website, tomeofuselessness.com. You can follow us on social at Tome of Uselessness. You can email us, tomeofuselessness@gmail.com, and say that we're wrong and all of our opinions are dumb. Or that we're right and all of our opinions are good.
Ooh.
Rate and review us on iTunes or whatever platform you can. And thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Yeah, have a great day.